Is an actual. I can do an actual thing. Get to an actual lobby. An actual lobby on Lupcow Pass?
We are losing objective Edward. We have taken objective George.
Ah, yes! Latency to the server.
We have lost objective Edward.
I miss this so much. Give me that. Give me that, give me that, give me that, or I'll be crying. Give me that, give me that, give me that, or I'll be crying.
Жду приказа, подпрапорщик. Двигаемся, давай!
No dirt. This gun is beautiful. I think I'm in love. Since when do I have such beautiful guns? Beautiful guns! This beautiful map! There's my beautiful dog! What is this? Nikolai? Ah, what the f you want, comrade? Explain this. I just shot a man.
We have taken objective Charlie.
Okay, do you need me to help you hide the body? Let's get that out of the way first, before we do anything further. Hiding body is very simple. First, we have to go get some vodka.
Halfway there, the enemy has the upper hand.
You idiot! You idiot! You really are hurting, aren't you?
We are losing objective George.
Obviously! Is it physical, mental, or emotional pain?
We have taken
Emotional.
objective apples. We have lost objective George.
Do I need to go in there
We have
with a
taken
sniper
objective
rifle
Duff.
and just shoot the ball sack off everyone? What the name of Khrushchev's ball sack? I will take every one of them out. Don't underestimate the power of Russian. Never underestimate the power of almighty Jesus. I was able to hit a horse. This man better get to me. What the name of Pornhub?
We have lost objective apples. We have lost objective Edward. We have taken objective Freddy.
Там! Вражеская кавалерия!
Well, I don't know how you keep doing it. How in Christ's name do you keep falling for the tripwire? I don't see it. That's how.
We have lost objective
Well, look for it. You're not going to see it unless you look for it. What do you think I've been doing, you idiot? Well, obviously you need to look harder. I will stick my wiener up. I will stick my wiener up the barrel of his gun.
We have taken objective apples.
That doesn't seem sanitary. Do I look like I care whether that's sanitary? Actually, the most unsanitary thing I've ever heard of. So why in Christ's name you think of that? If I didn't get that kill,
We have an armored train on
depot. I swear to butt monkey.
lost objective apples. We have taken objective Duff. We have taken objective Freddy. We have taken objective Edward. Objective Duff.
Same side. Did you not hear me? I said we're on the same side, you idiot.
Тебя ранили. Я тебе помогу. Аптечка!
I swear to the wieners. Big fat floppy donkey wieners.
Yeah.
We have lost objective Edward.
Аптечка пригодится! Ранен! Я тебя подлатаю!
We have lost objective Duff. We are losing objective Freddy.
Берегись!
What the? Takes them one shot. Take 5 shots with the same weapon. What, I'm not good enough?
We have lost objective Edward.
Вот тебе аптечка! Достал его! Хорошо получилось! Аптечка, лови! Аптечка, пригодится! Держи аптечку! Спасибо тебе большое! Я тебя заштопаю! Я тебя подлатаю! Я займусь твоей раной. Это тебе аптечка.
I'm going Zarditan, not Brucey Love Keep. What do you mean you're doing that? I'm the one that's playing. Oh, sorry, my mistake. Mr. Big Shot here is going to do it. See, this is why nobody likes you.
We have taken objective apples.
Would you like to eat 6
We
string
have taken
cheeses in a
objective
row?
butter.
Absolutely not. We're gonna deep fry them and there's gonna be tomato sauce. USOB, I'm in. And that's how we get mozzarella sticks. Hang on, where's my backpack? Where is my backpack? I need... Hang on. Yeah. From this point forward... Whenever I play as the Red Army in any game, whenever I die... Hang on, let me go get my backpack. Whenever I die, and I'm playing as the Red Army, we're gonna read out of the Communist Manifesto. We're gonna start chapter 2, because I don't want to have to reread chapter 1. I'm gonna start from where I actually am, going through this thing. In what relation do the communists stand to the proletarians as a whole? No room to spawn in the deploy point, but it wouldn't let me choose another one. Next time I'm just gonna make the most out of the extra time.
We are losing objective butter.
Граната!
The communists do not form a separate party opposed to other working class parties. They have no interests separate and apart from those of the proletariat as a whole. They do not set up any sectarian principles of their own by which to shape and mold the proletarian movement. Seriously, now whenever we play this game, I'm just not gonna play this game unless I have the Communist Manifesto with me. Like, I'm not gonna play it on any of the In the Name of the Tsar maps without the Communist Manifesto literally on my lap. Given how badly I suck eggs at this game. no, I forgot this. Oh, I know, I forgot the guns overheat. Thing has such a long reload. Eh. Eh. Alright, I'm gonna go balls deep on them. What a freaking annihilator. Communists are distinguished from the other working class parties by this only. One, in the national struggles of the proletarians of the different countries, they point out and bring to the front the common interests of the entire proletariat, independently of all nationality. Two, in the various stages of development which struggle of working class against the bourgeoisie has to pass through, they always and everywhere represent the interests of the movement as a whole. And forget it. Now, it's just going to be a whole paragraph every single time.
Граната пошла!
The communists, therefore, are on the one hand practically the most advanced and resolute section of the working class parties of every country, that section which pushes forward all others. On the other hand, theoretically, they have over the great mass of the proletariat the advantage of clearly understanding the line of march, the conditions, and the ultimate general results of the proletarian movement. I'm gonna have the freaking FBI at my door just from reading this on stream. It's gonna be kind of difficult to explain to my dad. He'll be confused. The immediate aim of the communists is the same as that of all the other proletarian parties. Formation of the proletariat into a class, overthrow of bourgeois supremacy, conquest of political power by the proletariat. Are we just not going to talk about it? Are you kidding me? The theoretical conclusions of the communists are in no way based on ideas or principles that have been invented or discovered by this or that would be a universal reformer. Granado. They merely express in general terms actual relations springing from an existing class struggle from a historical movement going on under our very eyes. The abolition of existing property relations is not at all a distinctive feature of communism. Path. All property relations in the past have continually been subject to historical change, consequent upon the change in historical conditions. The French Revolution, for example, abolished feudal property in favor of bourgeois property. The distinguishing feature of communism is not the abolition of property generally, but the abolition of bourgeois property. But modern bourgeois private property is the final and most complete expression of the system of producing and appropriating products that is based on class antagonisms, on the exploitation of the many by the few. Crap, and I had an incoming medic. I need a medic for medic! In this sense, the theory of the communists may be summed up in the single sentence, abolition of private property.
Halfway there, the enemy has the upper hand.
We communists have been reproached with the desire of abolishing the right of personally acquiring property as the fruit of a man's own labor, which property is alleged to be the groundwork of all personal freedom, activity, and independence. Hard-won, self-acquired, self-earned property. Hard-won, self-acquired, self-earned property. Do you mean the property of the petty artisan or the small peasant, a form of property that preceded the bourgeois form? There's no need to abolish that. The development of industry has to a great extent already destroyed it, and is still destroying it daily. Or do you mean modern bourgeois private property? I can tell my friends are already gonna be asking me when I get back to
Это
school.
тебе аптечка.
Dude, why were you reading the freaking Communist Manifesto during your stream? But they're gonna ask what happened to goofing off on a Friday night. Of course they're gonna ask what happened to goofing off on a Friday night, Saturday morning live stream, Saturday night live stream. The main streams that I do on my channel, the weekly streams, family emergency, that's basically why. Don't worry, next week I'll be back. Try to get Radical Gaming Nerd back. If I can get him back on. Of course, we'll have the
Аптечка. Тебя же ранили. Надо подлечить.
1v1 that we've been talking about since episode 1.
Ты ранен. Я помогу.
But does wage labor create any property for the laborer? Not a bit. It creates capital, i.e. that kind of property which exploits wage labor, and which cannot increase except upon condition of begetting a new supply of wage labor for fresh exploitation. Property in its present form is based on the antagonism of capital and wage labor. Let's examine both sides of this antagonism.
We have lost objective apples.
To be a capitalist is to have not only a purely personal, but a social status in production. Capital is a collective product, and only by the united action of many members, nay, in the last resort, only by the united action of all members of society, can it be set in motion. I am seriously reading this. This is what my life has come to.
The enemy controls all objectives.
Now, I'm gonna give you all some very good advice. Once you find the love of your life, do not let go. Otherwise, you will be reduced to this. Capital is therefore not a personal, it is a social power.
Я тебя подлатаю.
When therefore capital is converted into common property, any of the property of all members of society, personal property is not thereby transformed to social property. It is only the social character of the property that is changed. It loses its class character.
We have taken objective Charlie.
Let us now take wage labor.
We have taken objective apples.
Oh, hey! Woman of the street.
Ранили? Я тебе помогу. Тебя ранили. Я тебе помогу.
We have lost objective Charlie.
Аптечка, лови! Аптечка! Спасибо!
Alright, we're gonna...
Аптечка, подлечись!
Right here?
Спасибо, друг!
I think he likes me.
Тебя ранили. Я тебе помогу. Вот тебе аптечка.
Accept my help!
Я вижу вражескую кавалерию.
I survived! Oh yeah, and if we lose as them, if we lose as the Red Army, I have to read one page, like a full page. But if I win, I have to read 2 pages. So I'm just going to finish up this page. The average price of wage labor is the minimum wage, i.e. that quantum, the means of subsistence, which is absolutely requisite to keep the laborer in bare existence as a laborer. What therefore the wage laborer appropriates by means of his labor merely suffices to prolong and reproduce a bare existence. We by no means intend to abolish this personal appropriation of the products of labor, an appropriation that is made for the maintenance and reproduction of the human life, and that leaves no surplus wherewith to command the labor of others. All that we want to do away with is the miserable character of this appropriation, under which the laborer lives merely to increase capital and is allowed to live only insofar as the interests of the ruling class requires it. Can I just get in the... Finally, I can drive this thing! I'm going to be the best damn chauffeur you've ever met. And I crashed. Yikes. Yikes. In Russia, we say yikes like... No, no, we are not letting you say that on this channel. Because I know exactly what you're going to say, and we do not promote that kind of language on this channel. We do not promote that kind of offensive language, especially towards that community. But what if I say bikes being ridden by... Nope, not gonna happen either, pal. You just really... If we're talking rock formations, then you're allowed to say it. But only if we're talking about the rock formations. What the heck does Dwayne Johnson have to do with... What the heck does Dwayne Johnson have to do with lesbians? Oh, you'd be surprised. What? What?
Return to the combat area. taken objective Edward. We have taken objective butter. We have lost objective Charlie.
Kann mich mal jemand behandeln?
We have lost objective butter.
Oh my lord! How am I doing this? Oh my lord!
We have taken objective Charlie.
Finally!
We have taken objective Duff.
Are you taking objective Hillary Duff? How do I have more kills than deaths right now? A better question? How in Christ's name did I take down the freaking cavalry? Literally any other game, I would have died. Me back in season 1 of goofing off on a Friday night, I would have died.
We have lost objective Charlie.
Heck, season 3 goofing off on a Friday night, I still would have died. Keep in mind, we're in season 3. Heck, season 5 of goofing off on a Friday night. In a couple of years. I'm still gonna be able to die from that. Of course, this game's gonna be long gone by then, but still. There's no way I'm ever gonna be able to survive something like that again. could have, would have, and should have died. For some reason, I didn't. Sounds like the story of my actual life. Is that, or...
We have taken objective Charlie.
In the woods of the famous... No thanks. In the words of Freddie Mercury, I'm going slightly mad. I'm going slightly mad. It finally happened. Just so unenthusiastically kills him.
We have lost objective Edward. We have taken objective Butter. We are losing objective Butter. Halfway there, We have the upper hand. We have taken Objective Edward. We are losing Objective Butter. We have lost Objective Duff. An enemy armored train is en route. A sentry kit is available near your location. An enemy armored train has arrived. We have taken Objective Apples. objective Duff. We have taken objective Butter. We have lost objective Apples. Objective Edward. We have lost objective Duff. We have taken objective Edward.
Hier, das ist einer ihrer Soldaten.
objective butter. We have taken objective Charlie. We have lost objective Charlie. We have taken objective Duff.
And now my nickname in English class is Deadpool. I have 5,000 war bonds. I'm gonna go to the Codex. What idiot still uses that weapon? It's like that. The M1918 is the first rifle designed for the sole purpose of destroying armored targets. At over 169 centimeters, this monstrous German weapon would stand almost the same height as a soldier. It was extremely heavy, at 37 pounds, and peerless in its ballistic capabilities. The tank of air fired an extremely powerful 13.2 millimeter round that could penetrate even the toughest tank armor of the era. The M1918, so bulky and so powerful that it had to be fired from a static position. It was a weapon to be feared. And God knows I fear that weapon.
Italy had been an ally of Germany and Austria-Hungary before the war, but when it broke out in 1914, they claimed that the alliance was only a defensive one, and Italy had no obligation to join an offensive war. However, 1 year later, Italy joined the war siding with the Allies, hoping to reclaim lost Italian lands that were now part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The Italian front was characterized by mountains. The amount of soldiers wounded compared to killed was far greater there than other fronts, because stray bullets would splinter the rock into deadly projectiles that were particularly dangerous to eyes and faces.
Alright, here we go. Nikolai, you want to do this one? Alright. The Mad Monk. Emerging from a small rural village in central Russia, Grigory Y. Rasputin rose to prominence as a wandering religious mystic who offered his teachings in exchange for hospitality during his journeys and pilgrimages to various religious sites. In 1903, he attracted the attention of Maria Alexandra in St. Petersburg. She was desperate to find a cure for the royal heir Alexei, who suffered from hemophilia. Alexandra turned to the seemingly miraculous powers of Rasputin, who succeeded in stopping a bout of bleeding. Following his success, he not only became Alexei's official doctor, but quickly climbed the social ladder and extended his influence over the royal court. He built his own political circle and court favorites and warned the Tsar that Russia's involvement in the war would inevitably lead to the downfall of his dynasty. Many royal and political figures despised Rasputin's influence over Tsar and Tsarina and his impudent debaucherous lifestyle, and he was assassinated December 30th, 1916. Nice.
At the outbreak of the war, the Russian Empire was able to mobilize nearly 5 million men in 115 infantry divisions and 38 cavalry divisions. The infantry was equipped with a Vintovka Moisina version of the 7.62mm bolt-action rifle Moisink Nagant 1891. And each infantry regiment, clad in modern green khaki uniforms, fielded 8 belt-fed and water-cooled Maxim M1910 machine guns and was supported by the Putilov 76.2mm field gun. Alongside them fought the Lancers, Dragoons, Hussars and Cossacks, all with long, glorious military traditions of service. Airplanes and armoured car divisions had the ability to quickly alter the dynamic of the battlefield, and Russia had two great advantages: land and men. There were, however, doubts that Russia's military was ready to fight a modern war. With a population of nearly 170 million people, the Russian Empire could call upon more soldiers than any other European nation. But coming from mostly agrarian, deeply religious and often superstitious societies, the regular Russian conscript got little more than a rudimentary training of basic soldier skills. The high illiteracy rate made broad communications difficult, and this also affected complex tactical decisions. The General Staff and Officer Corps suffered from internal political scheming, mistrust and personal jealousies between commanders, and rampant nepotism stood in the way of tactical innovation. Also, the belief that the bayonet was mightier than the bullet made soldiers' lives expendable and casualties acceptable. Still, though Russia would suffer catastrophic defeats, Tannenberg, Masurian Lakes, she would also achieve glorious victories, like the Brusilov offensive, which nearly knocked Austria-Hungary out of the war. Also, Russia could give up endless amounts of land, drawing the enemy further and further from his supplies and reserves, leaving it open to a counterstrike. It was a mighty army indeed. No other war in history had brought such change so quickly as World War I. It's been said that between 1914 and 1918, the world went from 1870 to 1940. And in many ways it is true. Men rode into war on horses and rode out of it in tanks. In August 1914, Old School met new as infantry marched out en masse in brightly coloured uniforms against machine guns. The New School won. Airships and airplanes sailed the skies, submarines and battleships prowled the seas, and the biggest gun of all, the Paris gun, fired shells that were the first man-made objects to reach the stratosphere. Stormtroops, the creeping barrage, chemical warfare, the psychological warfare of bombing civilians far from the front. These were the hallmarks of the First World War. Even things we take for granted today, like the zipper, radio communications, sanitary napkins and soya sausages, became everyday conveniences because of the war. And medicine made greater progress in those 4 years than at any other time or after. As the victors redrew the map after the war, many countries we know today emerged. The post-World War was, in every respect, a new world. Monte Grappa occupied a strategic position on the Assaggio Plateau, overlooking the gateway of the plains of Veneto. Whoever controlled its height controlled the area, and it saw its share of battles during the war. In 1917, the Italians halted the Austrian summer offensive at the very peak, and by December the Austrians had been pushed off the mountain. Further attempts to take the mountain in the spring and summer of 1918 also failed, and Monte Grappa, by then the symbol for Italy's defence, would play a huge part in the final Italian offensive of the war on Vittorio Veneto. Finally forced the collapse of the Austro-Hungarian army and its retreat in late October 1918. 2/3 of the casualties of the offensive were inflicted around Monte Grappa itself. With Russia out of the war, Germany was free to transfer...
No.
The Battle of Caporetto in October 1917 nearly broke Italy. They took 300,000 casualties as German and Austro-Hungarian forces crashed into the Isonzo River Valley. 1 year later, the situation was different. The German army was in retreat, Bulgaria had surrendered, the Entente was pushing through the Balkans and the Middle East, and the Italian Army Chief of Staff had been sacked for his incompetence and replaced by Armando Diaz. Austria-Hungary was on the verge of collapse, and if Italy was to gain any territory, they would have to act swiftly before the war ended. Diaz launched a final offensive to capture Vittorio Veneto. The fighting was brutal, but eventually the combined Entente forces had the demoralized Austrians in full retreat. They took Trent and Trieste as the Habsburgs' empire began to collapse. The Armistice of Villa Giusti took effect on November 4th, 1918, and ended warfare on the Italian front, 4 days after the end of the last bloody battle of the Great War.
The main target for the German army during the Battle of Verdun was not to capture the city itself, but the line of heights near the river Meuse, known as the Côte des Murs. Since antiquity, those heights had been a strategic stronghold dominating the whole region. The Germans were initially able to cross the Meuse and drive the French out of their positions on the west bank, even advancing so far as capturing Fort Douaumont. But the battle for the heights further north soon became a living nightmare for the troops on both sides. Camouflaged machine gun nests and relentless shell fire from French 75mm field guns tore deep holes in the advancing German infantry columns, at the same time as German flamethrower units and heavy howitzers smashed into the fortified French positions. Hills like Côte 304 and Monthomme, the Dead Man's Hill, became lasting synonyms for the truly unbelievable slaughter there, as the Germans tried to wrestle the heights from the French defenders by sheer force. Only after a 36-hour bombardment from 500 artillery guns on the 9th of April 1916, the Germans able to rout the broken French lines and take the two hills. The fighting on the hilltops was perhaps the worst of the entire war, with soldiers dying of thirst and the wounded drowning in mud.
Maria Bochkarova had been a soldier since 1914, after personally petitioning the Tsar to be allowed to fight, as women were not allowed to officially join the Imperial Russian Army.
Alright, I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna read this one. His trip funded and organized by the German High Command in April 1917. His trip funded and organized by the German High Command in April 1917. Prominent anti-war socialist Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov, known as Lenin, boarded a sealed train from his exile in Switzerland to travel to Petrograd through neutral Sweden. Petrograd was already in turmoil at this point, with starving families, tired workers, and disillusioned deserters roaming the streets. German High Command had hoped that the appearance of Lenin would destabilize the war-weary Russian society even further towards a separate peace, but the socialist agitator would eventually drive the nation to full-scale revolution and civil war. The Tsar, who had abdicated and been arrested in the February Revolution earlier in the year, had yielded his power to two rival factions, the Provisional Government and the Petrograd Soviet, but they were unable to govern effectively. Small groups of armed volunteers banded together to form the first Red Guards, who were genuine supporters of the Bolshevik cause. After ultimately seizing control in the violent October Revolution, Lenin and Leon Trotsky began organizing the Red Guards into a real military force, mostly drawn from the major industrialized cities in central and northern Russia, where the strongest supporters of the Bolshevik agenda came from. At first, this consisted of volunteers who were factory workers, former soldiers, sailors of the Baltic Fleet, men from urban garrisons, local militias, Soviet unions, or loose partisan groups who would organize only for immediate military threats before disbanding. Lenin and Trotsky knew that compulsory service would be very unpopular with the peasant and agrarian societies that did not support the Bolshevik cause. In fact, the anti-socialist rural societies built the base for the counter-revolutionary army of the White Russians. The Bolshevik belief that the industrial worker was superior to the farmer led to a new dimension of violence in Russian society. Over the course of the Russian Civil War, the Red Army would eventually turn to conscription, increasing its ranks to millions of men in a fight against counter-revolutionary forces and foreign interventions in local resistance groups all over Russia. That's gonna be it for this one. I hope you guys leave a comment, leave a like if you're new to the channel, subscribe, click the bell, turn on notifications, and until next time, I'm RatinGaming. Stay frosty.